What you're looking at right now is Pixar's very first produced shot. It was before Pixar officially became Pixar, but you get the point. From Star Trek II in 1982 to Lightyear in 2022, there have been countless hours poured into the mosaic of art that is Pixar's catalog. But how exactly is a Pixar flick made? From the creation to the animation, let's explore just how a Pixar movie is completed today. Back when Toy Story 2 was wrapping up production, almost all hope seemed lost as the hard drives ended up being mysteriously corrupted, including their backups. And here I am pulling out my hair when Premiere freezes during an 8-minute edit. Only 10% of the project was salvageable with the corrupted hard drives, and Toy Story 2 almost seemed as lost in time as Wheezy. Thankfully for Pixar, the supervising technical director had been working from home following the birth of her child and had daily sent over to her personal computer, saving the production and one of the best sequels of all time. With programs like Dropbox and Google Drive, it's hard to picture why this would even be an issue, but just remember, this was like 1996 when computers looked like this and the internet sounded like this. All these years later, and once again, working remotely has saved Pixar. When the world experienced an in-real-life 2319 with COVID, Pixar was forced to lock its doors and find a way to create multi-million-dollar productions from the comfort of the employees' own homes. The first test for this was Pixar's Popcorn, a compilation of shorts on Disney Plus that challenged small teams to create new shorts featuring pre-existing assets. These aren't really anything to write home about. They've been criticized for their lack of VO, and many found them to be nothing more than a few moments of mindless fun. But the project even existing serves as proof of concept that Pixar would be able to survive its temporary closure. Fast forward a few months from that, and we have Luca, Pixar's first official movie to have been almost entirely created from home. While Pixar is known to pioneer technologies, Luca forced the creatives to look towards pre-existing tech that could be implemented into the workflow to keep communication and concepts flowing from computers stationed all around the world. This led to some pretty impressive feats, like the voiceover work, which was completed with nothing more than a microphone and an iPad, which is a far cry from the recording booth that Pixar typically uses in their projects. With creative sound engineering, they were able to turn a line reading from something like this to something much cleaner like this. Here we are talking about remote work, but how does a Pixar flick actually begin its life? Well, with a pitch, obviously. Once the pitch is accepted, it goes through the screenwriting process, which doesn't really end until the picture itself is completed. Every day, Pixar is trying out new storyboards and line ideas, and because of this, the script is ever changing. Sometimes it takes months for a script to truly find its voice, like in Soul, for example. Writer Kemp Powers joined the production team as the script had already been completed, but he ended up implementing his own life experiences to add some life into Joe Gardner. The entire barbershop scene was implemented as a personal slice of life. See, every single Pixar employee is kind of like those orbs from Inside Out, each with their own unique point of view and memories that bring something fresh and new. It's because of this that Pixar is extremely open to the opinions of everyone on the team. Inspiration can come from everywhere, and the team is very well aware of that.
So if you're lacking inspiration, you better go find it somewhere.
I think we can all agree that the opening montage in Up is one of the most gut-wrenching moments ever put on film. The inspiration behind that? Just some random family videos that were sold on eBay. Sometimes that spark comes from something much more personal, like in Onwards, where director Dan Scanlon based the entire story off his own relationship with his brother, crafting the movie as a love letter to him for being like a father. You'd think that the whole fantastical element was the driving force of the movie, but no, it was really just the means to an emotional end. Once the script has gotten off the ground, the production designer starts work approving the general aesthetic of the movie. Like for Luca, they had some water designs which were incredibly realistic, but the note for that was to make it a little more cartoony and to really focus on the colors of the ocean rather than the realistic wave animations. This seems to be the biggest hassle via remote work, as the sharing of ideas and communication of notes is much harder to complete on a video conference call versus walking into somebody's office and seeing everything completed. One of the most important elements to recent Pixar movies is the setting itself. Gone are the days where a movie largely takes place in Andy's room, and instead we now have authentic recreations of real-life environments. Sometimes it's a little more hidden, like the city of Boston being the basis of New Mushroomton, and other times it's more direct, like Turning Red, which is directly set in Toronto. But how exactly do the environmental designers know about including landmarks like the CN Tower, or more unique spots like the Kensington Asian market. Pixar will go on scouting trips with members from every facet of production. While on location, thousands of pictures are taken and hundreds of sketches are recorded. There are so many elements that are caught in a simple stroll, like just how the people are dressed. In Toronto, you'd see people stomping in their Timbs, whereas people on the Italian Riviera would probably melt if they wore something that heavy. Every single detail is noted. Heck, during the scouting for Luca, it was examined that the beaches in the Cinque Terre have these tiny little pebbles. They're not sandy. The palette is very warm and it's composed of a handful of colors ranging from yellows, the salmon colors, to these terracotta reds. All that information is essential in forming the overall environment. It may be details that only 1% of the audience clearly notices, but it makes all the subliminal difference. Beyond just the environment that any given movie takes place in, Pixar is extremely careful about the details included in their films for worldwide distribution. In fact, there's an entire team in place that ensures that each country receives their own unique cut of the film that makes sense within their norms of their culture. Sometimes these are simple changes, like the vegetable that Riley eats in Inside Out. There were actually different takes featuring various vegetables. Then we have more unique changes, like when Bing Bong reads a sign. Some languages read left to right, and some languages read right to left. So they had to have two entirely different animations completed to demonstrate this. Speaking of signs, they also take a great deal in ensuring that every bit of signage and text on screen is accurate to the market the film is viewed in. There are a total of 43 different versions of Onward with this in mind. To be honest, changing every single sign is super daunting, which is where the process of neutralization comes to play. To cheat a little, the text gets removed for a universal symbol that would be understood in most markets. So, as you'd probably gather as I've spoken about the pebbles featured in Luca to the incredible amount of variations of any given movie, animating a Pixar movie is no easy task, with each production introducing its own specific set of challenges. Take the car series, for example. Each car has its own paint job, and the type of paint used is specifically chosen to help sell the character.
Ramon will paint you up right.
There's a reason why someone like Sir Tomater is rusted beyond belief, while Lightning McQueen is rocking a glossy sheen. On paper, this makes sense. Every car, of course, has its own unique paint job, but keep in mind, this is all just ones and zeros. None of this is real. The development of Cars 3 got even crazier as the animators introduced a form of ray tracing. Since Lightning is so glossy, it would only make sense for reflections of the other cars to appear, so they even had to animate cars that weren't even on screen. Another odd animating challenge was for Ratatouille, where employees that spent all day making ramen to ensure they had time to animate had to understand the intricacies of Michelin-rated dining. Not only did they have to know the ins and outs of the finished foods, but the actual cooking of it too. As a result, the team worked on and photographed 270 dishes to ensure that everything was as accurate as possible. Who would have thought that a movie that had a rat controlling a dude by pulling his hair would be shooting for that kind of accuracy? Pixar has had an incredible range of talents in their VO booths, from Keanu Reeves to Tom Hanks. Some of the absolute most talented actors of all time have recorded with the company, but the fantastic performances in the movies should be attributed to the animators themselves. Unlike mocap, where performers' every move is recorded and facial scans are typically completed, voiceover is done in a contained room where the actor has to stand fairly still. This means that the people doing the incredible acting are the animators. The animation team will film themselves acting on top of the already recorded dialogue to see how the character would naturally say the line, and it's those clips that are used as reference for the poses that the character models make. Fun fact, the secret to a great Pixar performance is the eyebrows. An incredible amount of detail is paid attention into the animation of the brows as they see the eyebrow as the window into the soul. What do Pixar's most recent releases, Soul, Luca, and Turning Red, all have in common? They've all forgone standard theatrical releases and instead went straight to Disney+. While this is convenient for most families, it's really not the preferred method for the production team. When Turning Red was announced to be making the move over to a streaming debut, an anonymous employee voiced their concern to insiders, stating, "It's safe to say we're all feeling extremely disappointed. Until today, we thought Turning Red would be our return to the big screen, and everyone at the studio was so excited about this being the film in particular. It was quite a blow. So why exactly is this happening?" The easy answer would be COVID, but Spider-Man No Way Home has proven to be a box office juggernaut, and even titles like Death on the Nile are making it onto the big screen. The larger picture seems to be merchandising. When Encanto premiered in theaters, it did pretty well, but when it went on to streaming, well, I'm sure everybody has heard We Don't Talk About Bruno Bruno since then. Pixar films are a beautiful shared experience that is perfect for the theatrical space, as when I inevitably laugh and cry way more, I could hear the rest of the audience doing the same. I just want to give a shout out to the unsung heroes of Pixar, the music editors. They spend countless hours composing a score for the animatics that are currently in production, which ends up informing the actual animation, only to get entirely redubbed in the end with someone like Michael Giacchino.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Gardner.
You're doing my ears a favor.